Hello, welcome back for our Unit 2 in our Contemporary World History course here at Waldorf University. As we get into Unit 2, we're going to be looking at the causes and effects of World War I, or what people at the time called the Great War. And this week is a little bit unique. We really kind of get things rolling. You got three different things to accomplish this week. First, you've got your discussion board posts. You've also got an assessment, and then you have a Unit 2 essay. So I think this is an important week to know what you've got going on, make sure you're staying on top of things, and then maybe having a quality approach to knowing what you've got to do before you get into that textbook. So here, I'll tell you what you got to do. First, over on the discussion board, you've got two posts as usual. Your first post, which will answer the question, which is, were political, economic, or social cultural factors most responsible for the onset of World War I, and why? So I think it's good to know this as you get into the textbook, be identifying those things you go through and then making kind of your judgment. And that first post is going to be due by Saturday at 11:59 p.m. Central Standard Time. Then I want you to go through and respond to a classmate. Maybe even find somebody who identified different factors. I think that could be a good jumping off point for a discussion. Maybe you're going to say, is entangling alliances between European powers that are going to kick off World War I. And then maybe you want to find somebody who said it was economic, and you could kind of have a quality back and forth. Make sure we're building out. I think on Unit 1, sometimes we don't get as good of depth as we need to be getting to get the full credit on the discussion board. Make sure in Unit 2 here, you're getting into the textbook. If you got to do some other outside research and pull that in, I just want to see that there's some quality content, both in your initial response and then as you're responding to a classmate as well. Once you get that discussion board done, you've got a Unit 2 assessment. And this is pretty straightforward. It's one kind of essay question, and it's about kind of the end of World War I. So over there, this only has to be 75 words in length. A lot of students will write more than that because to answer this question, sometimes it takes a little bit more. But I want you thinking about what were the primary objectives of American President Woodrow Wilson at the Versailles Peace Conference, and kind of how did they differ from the post-war aims of other allied nations. This is a really good question that can kind of show the emergent American role in world kind of events that comes with the close of the First World War. And then also gives you a sense of how what these different nations expect at the peace conference leads us towards what's ultimately going to be the Great Depression and World War II. Make sure you're knocking that out. I think that's an easy one to do if you know that question going into your text reading. When you get to that part, maybe put your thoughts together, knock out that assessment. That's not due until Tuesday at 11:59 p.m. Central Standard Time. You could always get it done earlier. The other thing you got to do is the Unit 2 essay, and there's some pieces to this. This is, if I were taking the course, where I'd probably put the focus of my attention and just know that it's going to be an assignment that takes a little bit. So in this, you're going to address the following questions. So what were the various stages in the rise of national movements in Asia and the Middle East during this time period we're studying? And then how did their experiences compare with the experiences of nationalist movements in the 1800s in Europe? So what you want to do here, and it breaks it into parts really well if you go over to the syllabus schedule, and I'll put those under the announcements as well. So if you're watching this video, it's down below. But what I want you to do is follow kind of the steps that are there to develop this essay. So first, choose a country from Asia, the Middle East, 1919 to 1939. And then gather some details and compare facts as you begin your research. So in the past, I've had students do everything like a Middle Eastern country, for example. Iran's been very successful for students in the past. Students have chosen Japan and Asia. It doesn't matter to me which country you pick. Those are two options. You can, as you get through the text, maybe something else will catch your mind. Maybe you've got some unique experiences that would make you choose somewhere else. I don't care what you pick. Just pick one country from either of those regions. Then do your research and choose a visual or print primary source that addresses a nationalist movement in that country. So a lot of times people use political cartoons for this. You don't need to put the source directly into the essay. I think some students do that. I just need the citation at the end on your references page. But I do want you to find it. Sometimes these are posters, political cartoons, paintings, film clips, or other pieces of propaganda. Then also in your research, I want you to find 2 appropriate scholarly sources. So you got to get over to the Waldorf Online Library. Some students will use Google Scholar for this, but your sources should be appropriate scholarly sources. Sometimes people will use primary sources like speeches or debates or newspaper editorials. Other people use more scholarly articles for that part of the assignment. It's up to you. You just got to make sure you have those 3 kind of sources in addition to the textbook. So in your bibliography, you're going to want to have at least 4 sources for this essay. Then draw some conclusions from the comparison and the range of opinions reflected in your research. Use that to compare the nationalist movement in your chosen country to other nationalist movements in Europe during the 1800s. Then put together a thesis statement that offers your reader a specific insight into the outcome. So if you're comparing and contrasting things, how were they the same? How were they different? That'd be the basis of a pretty good thesis. Then you got to put together 2 pages. So a lot of times how students have approached this in the past is they're going to write a pretty solid paragraph about the Asian or Middle Eastern country they've chosen. They're going to choose compare that to Europe in another kind of paragraph, and then have an introduction and conclusion. And that should get you pretty close to the 2 pages you need. You need to do kind of a title page and a bibliography page as well. So the total document should have at least 4 pages, but only 2 of those are writing. That's where it says at least 2 pages in length. And make sure you're citing those kind of sources in APA format. Those are kind of the main things. If you got questions on any of this stuff, whether it's discussion board, assessment, or this essay, make sure you're reaching out via email at kevin.mason@waldorf.edu. I appreciate the hard work you're putting into the course. Good luck this week.